And 3, 2, 1, boom. And we're back in another episode of Socratic Gamers. This is Socratic Dialogue. It's ironic we started off with the boom on this one, even though we always start off with the boom, because we're talking about world peace. World peace. So, achievable or not achievable? That is the question.
Oh, it's very much achievable.
True. Very much achievable. But by what means and how? So, before we actually get into the actual ins and outs of what world peace is and how to achieve it, it's interesting to think that from the very beginning, as like sperm cells that are making it to an egg, we're already thrown into competition.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we never think about that. Like you hear like a lot of namasters out there being like, oh,
Namasters,
you know what I mean? Like those like spiritual gurus being like, oh, or beings of love and all that, et cetera, et cetera. But like, how do you explain like beating out all the other ones?
Yeah.
I guess technically you're not killing them, but you're like competing.
It's a competition, yeah.
You know, and like from that, I would say that well, first off, all animal kingdom competes with one another, because there's like limited resources. Do you know any other any perfect animal species that rests in harmony, that doesn't do any sort of destruction?
Well, if it's not between themselves, it might be with other types of species. Right,
I'm thinking like lion kingdoms,
right?
You know,
what I mean is like the bonobos.
Okay.
Within themselves, they might be really nice to each other.
Bonobos are the closest ones to humans, is that what you said?
We're cousins, and them and chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are like the opposite of them.
But we're cousins of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, go on.
So, but then they might be probably different with other species, right?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So, even though they're cool with their own kind, when it comes to other animals,
I don't know enough of it to say for sure, but
it almost seems like, all right, from that perspective, okay, so you have no boundaries as an animal. Like for animals, they have no boundaries, right? There's no walls, no cages to keep them apart. But we've created this society that's the delusion of peace. Yeah. Right? The illusion and delusion, because it's not real and you think it's real, so it's delusion. But we have walls. But if we didn't have walls, wolves are going to come get us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
even in that perspective, it's so we have human peace if we achieve that, but it'll never be world peace where nothing will attack us. And that almost seems completely irrational as well. You know?
Right.
Because we're all competing for resources. That's kind of what
but this is the whole idea of evolution,
is.
Right? That's evolution right there.
You have to beat out, even in evolution actually, because evolution is that you're beating out a not important property or something, something you don't need anymore, so you change it, you know? I guess people call it adapting, but it's and then they're well, that's not technically competition, but it is. It's competition in a genetic scale.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I guess it's what do you mean by world peace? What do people really seek when they're seeking world peace? I think it's just a thing that's been repeated, that they don't actually know what they want. And I think it's weird when people are we just need love, because it's what does that mean even? Economically speaking, societally speaking, it's almost you didn't look far into it enough that you don't actually know what it is you're saying, you know?
Right.
It's an idealistic viewpoint, but ideals are also diluted, right? Because that's why ideals are not realistic. It's an ideal, something you're pursuing,
right? You
know? But I don't know, because you study the animal kingdom a lot, so is there anything?
No, I don't know.
Is there anything that even because we're always oh, let's get back to nature as well. Yeah, we should be more like animals and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But it's but do you know how vicious animals can be?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
You know, we have this Disney viewpoint of bears being nice, but bears will kill you.
Yeah, I mean, even within even lions too, right? They're very, very territorial, and there's a lot of suffering and stuff in that too, right? It's just not
right.
You just you're always competing. That's you could easily lose your tribe
Totally. So here's the
or
thing.
pride. Let's say.
Here's the thing about like suffering that I think people don't really clarify. It's like, what is suffering? We think that if you're in pain, it's suffering, but you can be in pain and not be suffering. You're just in pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like let's say you pull off a amazing trick that you never thought in your entire life, but then like you break your bone in the process. It hurts, but you're not suffering over the broken bone because you're like, oh, you're so stoked at the fact that, or like fighters, right? They win a world championship. They're not suffering over their pain over a broken nose.
Right.
They're just like, dude, I actually accomplished that. You know what I'm saying? So I think suffering, no, I don't think, I know suffering's in the mind. Like it's a mental thing, you know?
Yeah.
You can be in pain and not suffer, you know? So with the animal thing, it's like, I don't know if there is suffering in the animal kingdom. Maybe there is. No, crows. There is for crows because they mourn, and mourning is a form of suffering because you're sad.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're talking about like even starvation is suffering, no?
Maybe it depends because like ascetics, right? They'll starve themselves, but for a good cause. So it's like even if you're starving, you're not really suffering because you're doing it for like a glorious cause.
Talking about humans?
Humans, yeah.
Okay.
Totally. So like, what I'm saying is like suffering is like a mental state, you know? And I think all animals have some capacity to like think, but like.
But I don't think they're. Well, I don't know. But I don't think they're necessarily viewing it like as
suffering.
Yeah.
Like it's not like suffering is like a desire unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think it's like that. I'm just saying in a sense that we are putting that category on it, right? But like it's not really.
It's not actually. It's totally. It's an unfulfilled viewpoint, just like how we think that bears are all friendly just because we watched like Baloo and Mowgli.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's not actually the reality of the situation at hand. I think that goes the same for like world peace.
Right.
Because I think that like the idea of world peace is the exact, because you know there's like dualities in life, right? Like love is the opposite of hate is the opposite of love, right? There's always like the positive and negative.
Yeah.
So like I'd say world peace, the opposite would be suffering, right? But these are just mental states. So if you just let go of both mental states, then there is no world peace, there is no suffering. Because then like you're just going with whatever the emotion is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of how nature plays itself out too. Because like they're not like if an asteroid was going to hit the Earth, no animal's going to be like, oh no, I've only got 7 more days before that asteroid hits. They'd have no concept of their imminent demise,
right?
So they wouldn't be suffering over it,
right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like the idea of world peace and the idea of suffering are like almost like, I don't want to say privileged states, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like
It is. Yeah, it is in some. I mean, like who are the ones really bringing that up? The ones who are privileged, right?
And the ones that are suffering over no world peace.
Yeah.
Because the people that don't really care are already in equanimity. It's the people that like, look, the only reason why you bring up something is because you're agitated by the thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why did we choose this topic? Because to me, it was aggravating in my mind. I was like, what is this problem I'm trying to explain? You know what I'm saying? So, like, everything that you do is brought on, like, it's cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the people oftentimes who want the most love and peace in the world are the ones starving the most for love and peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's
Yeah.
like, especially like if you look at spiritual gurus, they're all trying to like fill a void that they all feel. And then they're all trying to tell you that like there's a void that you should be feeling too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I once knew this guy who was like, I would like travel. I went to like Iceland. And then this guy was like, oh, it's such a privileged state to be going to Iceland. You're a very lucky person. Trying to make me feel bad about it. Whereas like I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective, but I was like, oh, it is. And it started to create suffering in my mind. I'm like, man, I am in this privileged state, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we should be striving towards like equanimity, and like I could use that money towards like food for the homeless. You know what I mean? But then it's like, I was in equanimity. It was you who brought me out of disharmony.
Right. Yeah.
Into disharmony.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
I was just chilling, bro. And I was like stoked over my trip. But then it's like, you brought up the negativity.
Right.
Because you were suffering over the fact that, I don't know, maybe you couldn't go on the trip as well, or you wish you had the money to go on the trip. And like, so, you know what I mean? Like, I find that that's, and especially in marketing, when you look at it, that's what we're trying to do. We're always trying to like pull at the heartstrings of other people to give them, to get you to give, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, look how much you have and look how much Sally doesn't have, you know? It's like a marketer's playground, you know, playing with perception. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, but then sometimes, I mean, those are extremes, right? Like,
okay.
Maybe the extremes help with, I mean, if that's, then it's going into like policy and stuff like that, right?
What do you mean?
Like politics, I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Like certain, how to maybe
Govern.
alleviate certain stresses or suffering, right?
Right.
In
No,
certain
totally.
things.
It's like this part of the world's like poor. Let's help out. I think what we do in this world, or what we should do, is like you're trying to just do, like, it's summed up the best through this guy. He founded Waves for Water, John Rose, and his tagline for Waves for Water is "Do what you love, but help along the way." And I heard that like years ago, like maybe 10 years ago.
Right.
And it's always governed the way I've looked at every single situation. It's like, all I can really do is just do what I'm doing, but like be nice to other people along the way, and like do my best part. But if it's like, if I'm unhappy, like it's like, okay, I could either go on this trip or give all that money towards charity.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you give it towards charity, but it's like, are you happy? And like, how's that money being spent? You know what I mean? Because like, even the way like charity systems are run, like 1 cent of every dollar goes towards the actual end goal,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, what is perfect, and like, what is this ideal we're striving for of like, again, world peace? It's like, it's diluted, it's broken,
right?
Because the system's broken, because like nobody really wants it, because nobody even knows what it is. You know, it's like, explain, like, if you ask anyone like, what is world, it's like the words like enlightenment and like, I actually wrote about this. People confuse, or they like conflate, means they like mix up the two words like enlightenment and samadhi.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, they're not the same things. Enlightenment is like where you like learn something, you get a revelation, but samadhi is where you let the mind go. It's like no mind.
Oh, right.
Right. But it's like, so it's sort of like, so when the people use it interchangeably, I always ask, like, what do you even mean? You know, I went to Thailand one time, and we went to a Buddhist monastery, and I'm like, what is enlightenment? Like, explain it to me. Because we did this monk chat thing. And it was like, you can ask them any question, and they can ask you questions. Like, it's a way for them to teach English, right? So I was like, okay, like what does enlightenment mean?
Right.
And nobody could answer me. They answered me, but it was very, like, aloof. It was like it is this amazing feeling of everything being perfect. And I was like, well, what does that mean though? Like, how do you achieve that? You know? And like, you achieve that by becoming like Buddha. And like, this makes no sense, right? Like, you're repeating catchphrases that you have no idea what they actually mean.
Right.
Right. I kind of feel, again, same way about world peace. It's like, what does world peace even look like? You know?
The utopian society, right?
Totally. Utopian society, but the problem with the utopian society is somebody will ultimately be angry. You can't... So, okay, if you look at it as basis level, right? World peace. Okay, world peace means that we all get along and we all agree upon one thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Ideally, that's what it means. Okay. Take 10 people and you're like, where do you want to go for dinner?
Yeah.
Boom. It's not perfect, right? I don't want Chinese. I don't really want this. I want this, right? So it's like, okay, so then you compromise, right? So is compromisation world peace? Not really, because you're all still kind of upset. And at the same time, that's only 10 people. What if you make it 1 million, 7 billion?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, how? Impossible. World peace is impossible.
Yeah. It just, I mean, realistically, because everyone's in a different like demographic in class system and stuff like that, right?
Totally, exactly. We all want different things too. It's like the dinner article, the dinner question. So it's like, okay, 10 people, where do you want to go for dinner? I want to go to Momofuku. Okay, I want to go to McDonald's. It's like, but I don't have enough money for Momofuku. So we're in different levels. So I can't even join you at Momofuku because it's so expensive.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're even battling with that. So again, you can't achieve world peace. The one I love is when people are like, if aliens came, do we'd achieve world peace because you'd have one common enemy. That's a lie, because somebody's going to be like, yeah, kill the rest of the world.
Right.
You know, yeah, I want the aliens to win.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, but that doesn't mean like all of a sudden you achieve world peace. Also, it's just like maybe for the temporary time, then it's going to come back.
So you're right.
Right. Like, okay, we defeated the aliens. It just, I mean, again, this is all.
But if you're looking at totally, if you're looking at like temporary states, okay, so like let's take that. So it's like for a temporary moment in time, you'll achieve world peace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my question is, how long of that temporary moment do you want? Because I'm sure in 1 millisecond, everyone on Earth at some point was at equanimity for 1 millisecond. Do we achieve it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like from that point of view, it's like, okay, we've already achieved world peace.
Mm-hmm.
For a millisecond only, though. So how many years do you want? 10, 20, 30? Doesn't really freaking matter. Because at the end, it's like you're not going to go back to that. It's never going to be perfect. But people that seek perfection are unhappy with their imperfect lives.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
Because at the end of the day, world peace is peace of mind. You know? You're like, the only reason why you're seeking out world peace is because you're agitated. But if you weren't agitated, like, okay, if you have a family, go with your family to the beach and have a fun time. Are you thinking about world peace? No. Your world has been at peace.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, chill out, bro. You know? It's only when you stop and you think about it, because it's only the mind that suffers and also pines for world peace. But if you actually look at it, like, pining for world peace is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Buddha said, the Zen monks are like, there's nobody to save.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, we're already at peace. It's only you who's creating non-separation. You know, it's only you who's creating disharmony out of your own harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Let that go and we're good. That's again, that quote, like, let go and be free. That's what they mean. Just like, let it go, bro.
Yeah.
And we're cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't do it, you know? But if you looked into it, it's like literally, that's what aggravates me. It's like people who are like harping on, like, they're begging for world peace. It's like, look into it deeply enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell me after actually studying it. Like, if you studied economics, you studied business, you studied like spirituality, and you come away with the answer for world peace, well, it's impossible. Like, my whole argument about the going to like, actually, no. I know how you achieve world peace. Robots. We all just become robots. Because then we have no desire, and then we can achieve world peace.
Yeah. Right.
Because desire is the only thing separating us from world peace. But then we also have like nothing to do. It's like, hey, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know where you want to go. I don't know where you want to go. And you're just going to say that for 1 million years until all of you die of starvation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, but this is not the society we live in. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Is it so? What brings about that? Like, is it guilt? Can guilt be? Like,
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Like have an impact as to why like someone's not having the same thing, but like.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, yeah, but see, if you go back to that original principle of like do what you love and help along the way, it's like that's why like Bill Gates's thing, his like foundation, they gave like 2.8 billion to like charity or something like that, and they've almost abolished polio around the world. There's only like 28 cases left or something like that, and the only place they can. Like, I was watching the David Letterman thing. They're talking about it, and like the only place that polio still exists is in war countries where they can't actually get to because there's like war.
Yeah.
Right. But they've like almost obliterated it off the entire face of the earth. Again, he's not saying I'm going to achieve world peace. He's just doing his part. So it's like the most you can do is just within your sphere of influence, like help. You know?
Yeah. But that's the ultra privileged can do that.
Only the ultra privileged. Totally. That's why I said like world peace is a privileged state. Well, actually, no. World peace is suffering. Like if you want world peace, you're suffering.
Right.
But if you want to help other people to alleviate some suffering, it's a privileged state.
Okay,
No
yeah,
poor person's
right.
well, if you look at your sphere of influence, if you have, all right, let's say you're poor, and then you hear somebody that's like, oh, I just want a friend, and then you spend time with them. I mean, that didn't really cost money.
Right.
So it's like, you can still alleviate suffering.
Mm-hmm.
There's levels to it, you know?
Yeah, there's levels, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can only, like,
True.
you can only do so much. And at the end of the day, you also have to accept the fact that you can only do so much. Like, I'm sure Bill and Melinda Gates aren't killing themselves over the fact that they couldn't get the last 28. They're like, makes sense. Like, we can't get in that zone. Like, you play within the rules of the system you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I can't get there, so it's cool. Accept your... Actually, that's funny. There was like, in the book Essential Zen that I finished reading, it's like... there's a passage about world peace in there, and it was saying that, like, I'm going to strive for it, but if I can't make it, I can't make it. And that's how it ended, right? And it's like, yeah, you just have to accept, like, what you did with your life.
Right.
You know, you can't do everything, but you can try.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Right. But, like, to just know what, like, is the realistic. I mean, that's just how I view things, I guess.
Like, what do you mean? Like, is it realistic?
Like, in a realistic sense, you can... That, again, it's your life. You could do what you want, right? But then to necessarily achieve certain things, it's like... It's... if it's not only in your control, then... You know, you just got to be accepting of...
Actually, yeah, no, 100%. I know what you're saying. So there's 2 books. It's not Blink. Outliers. Mm-hmm. Outliers 1. And I forgot the other book. It's called Lucky... it's Outliers and Lucky something. I forgot what it's called, but you can check out books.godlikemyfair.com. It's Lucky something. So basically what it says is all the successful people in the world are only there because of happenstance. It's not actually them. Like, there's so many billions of smart people in this world, but it's like everything had to have aligned perfectly.
Right.
Even really successful people, like Obama talks about that too. He's like, I'm not the smartest. It's just my life led me to this point.
Yeah.
You know? It's like cause and effect,
right.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, realistic sense, I guess, right? But like, we hope. You know that story of, like, Pandora's box? Yeah.
So, Pandora's box, the 7 deadly sins or something came out of the box, and then the last thing that came out of the box was hope.
Yeah.
Right? But people forget that. Like, that's the full tale, that the last thing was hope. And why? Because, like, hope is, like, actually really bad for you. Because you're putting something real aside for your desire, you know?
Right.
And it's unrealistic. You shouldn't hope for things. You should work towards them.
Yes. Yeah.
It's sort of like The Secret, you know? Those people are like,
yeah.
Oh, if I just sit at home and envision it, it's going to come true. It's like, no, but you have to put in the work. Oh, this guy, Joe Rogan podcast, Ora et Labora, work and prayer. Pray and work. So, like, you have to... A lot of people are just praying when nobody's working.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Right? Interesting, right? And then it's interesting, too, like, when you look at the people that get, like, upset and jealous, like, how come you got to that position and I didn't? But it's like, but you didn't put in the work. Like, I prayed for it, too, but I also worked, you know?
Right. Yeah, true.
If you're listening to this podcast in, like, the way future and, like, it's become, like, successful, you're going to be like, oh, wow, how did they do it, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, like, look at all the work, you know? It's like, it's nothing, you know? It's just like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, we forget the start of things, right? Like,
totally. There's a lot of stuff that, like, has been out on the internet that only gets, like, famous years later.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Like something will come back. Like, it has, like, ebbs and flows. You know, when it first comes out, it's not... perfect example. I just listened to this podcast. Lil Bow Wow. You remember Lil Bow Wow?
Yeah.
His first album only sold, right off the gate, 200,000 records.
Right.
200,000 sales. And at that point, the interviewer was like, well, how come they didn't just cut you? Because if you make 200,000, people are just going to be like, cut your losses, right? But he's like, the record company saw, even though I made 200,000, like the hordes of fans that were obsessed with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was like some Michael Jackson style. Like he would go to the mall and he'd be like encased in it. And they couldn't leave, right?
Yeah.
They had to like sneak out. But they're like, but he only sold 200,000. It's like, no, there's star power here. We got to like stick with this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 8 months down the line, he sold like 1 million. They're like, wait, how did that happen? And then 6 months later, he sold another 1 million. They're like, wait, what? It just takes a while for like ideas to catch up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like gotta look at the work. Gotta look at the work you put in.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Griffin was another one. Like he said he won class clown every single year, but he didn't think there was like an actual thing to it.
Yeah.
So like his cousin was like, they were like, he was broke, and his cousin's like, hey, I bet you won't go up on stage, as a joke. Went up, killed it. And the people were like, oh, like he only supposed to have 5 minutes, but he spent 45 minutes up there. And they told him like, you can't come back because you're like kind of stealing the show.
Yeah.
And like your jokes were like too graphic for them.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's like, okay. So then he just like went and called like different places to like book himself time. He's like, well, let me just see how far I can take this thing. And then he put in the work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
He didn't just pray for it. He worked for it, you know?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing we all forget, I guess.
That it takes work?
Yeah. Everything takes work.
You know what it is? We get caught up in the delusion that we forget the reality of the situation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people think that it'll work if you just pray for it versus just working for it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that's also why people believe that world peace is achievable when the only peace you seek is the peace in your mind.
Right.
You know?
Mm.
Like we're not looking objectively at any situations. We're like hoping for it to be the way that we believe it to be. It's like idealism on crack.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But I think that's why the lottery's so big.
We hope to win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People hope to win.
But but knowing statistically the chances, right? Like, it's.
But you hope.
Exactly.
You know?
That's how it works, right? That's how it sells. But like logically, it the likelihood of you winning is not
so low, right?
Yeah, it's so very, very low.
Yeah. It's funny. They asked Eddie Griffin like how he was in like Compton, right? And he's like, I was surrounded by Crips, and they're like, oh, have you ever joined like a gang? And he's like, no, my only gang is me, myself, and I. And then he's like, the reason why is because like, why am I going to be on the corner taking all the risk, and then I give the money back to the dealer?
Yeah.
He's like, it never made sense to me. If I'm going to take a risk, I'm going to take a risk fully for myself.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, that made sense. Like, but again, people are like hoping. I think people seek out a leader. People seek out order in a world of chaos.
Right.
And if they can't achieve order, then the mind goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you just embrace chaos, then it's all good all the time because the world is chaos.
Yeah.
You get hit by a car, you're like, okay, this world is chaos. It just happens. You know? It's going to suck, you know? Because nobody wants to be hit by a car, nobody wants to lose a loved one. But it's like, if you embrace the chaos, that this is just the ride of life, then what else is there to do except enjoy it?
Right.
You know? But again, that's something you taught me when I was going through that nihilism thing.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess you need people like that around you, right?
What do you mean? The order seekers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny. I was in the car with Tara yesterday, and then she was like, because I was like, oh yeah, like everybody, because like it's again idealistic and hopeful that everyone should achieve their dreams, right? But it's like, but if there weren't sick people, I wouldn't have a job.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like you have to appreciate the Taoism in there.
Yeah.
It's like your job is to heal people. If everyone, because I was saying like, oh, it would be cool if everyone followed their dreams, we'd all just have doctors and lawyers. We wouldn't have sick people. You know, but it's like, but you can't live in that world because everyone's got to play their part.
Yeah.
Remember that thing you said, like, we need janitors? Like, we need unhappy people.
Well, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm just... it doesn't necessarily mean you're unhappy, but yeah.
No, even unhappy people.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
Then psychiatrists can be like, hey, man, I'll make you happy.
Yeah.
Or like spiritual leaders can have followers. Big Pharma can pay for Prozac.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we need disharmony in order to create life.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I think maybe on the granular scale, if you look at it at its like smallest point, it's all chaos. But if you look at its biggest point, it's all harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like if you're on Earth, you see all this like goings on, right? But then if you're in space, you see like a blue dot. And you're like, oh, it looks harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but then if you go zoom in, you're like, oh, so much chaos going on. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
And it's sort of like at a middle, and like if you look at our skin, it's like, oh, it looks like it's not moving, but then you go to like an atomic level and you're like, wow, it's so much like vibration going on, because nothing's ever like truly still because of science, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you're caught up in the little picture, the world's gonna suck. But if you just look at the big picture, enjoy the show.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like this is only like a disease that humans have versus animals, you know?
I mean, we are the only animals that would have that, I guess.
Yeah.
In that sense.
True, yeah. No, totally. Because, and then you're like, oh, why? You know, it's because blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, no, we have a developed cerebral cortex. Prefrontal cortex, sorry.
Yeah. But it could also be our own demise. So.
Totally, yeah. No, for sure.
Time, yeah.
Our logical processing in our frontal lobe is so like defined as compared to all other animals. And that, you know, like, oh, people are like, no, that's not true. It's like, do animals set traps for us? No, because they don't think that far ahead. Like the frontal lobe is for reason and problem solving.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like that's why we set traps to catch animals. If animals had the same degree as us, they'd be setting traps.
Yeah.
But they don't. So it's like, no, we just is how it is, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada. So you voting for Vish?
I thought this is private.
No, I know. Do you want to talk about the blackface thing now?
Yeah, you want
Indian
to?
face? I don't know.
It's called brown face.
Brown face. Whoa.
He wasn't even Indian though.
All right. He was Aladdin or something?
An Arabian, I don't know, something like that.
All right. What's your point of view?
Well, I'm getting this from the TYT check.
Okay.
It's not a thing. Okay. As in, it's not a racist thing, because there was never a racist thing around brown face.
Okay, I like that.
Historically. Unlike blackface.
I'm going to go with people are so not concerned about policies that we're going to look at these things and make
That's
it bigger.
the thing. But who's the one playing that game, right? Who's the one that knew about this and wanted to get this released, right?
But who's the dope that fell for it?
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
I know.
It's like, okay, bro, sure.
Yeah.
Brown face, black face, whatever. Could be racist, could not be racist. That's up to you.
Right.
But what is he saying politically?
Policy-wise.
Like,
yeah.
All right, you can name me the fact that there's this photo out there, but can you name me 10 of his policies that he's trying to push and the ramifications of those policies?
Right.
If you can't, then you probably shouldn't be bringing up this photo. Right? Because this photo is the most superficial thing. It's like, who cares? That'd almost be like talking about it's like sexual orientation. You know, it's like, who cares at that point, bro? Like, what is it you're trying to change in society?
Right.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
But I mean, like, at the same time, then where you look at Trump, then it's like, well, what about the things that he's done? Just like, you should look at his policies, whatever, and blah, 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 right? It's like, yeah, I can see that point that, like, you have to look at all aspects of the person before voting for them.
Yeah.
But the key word there is all. So, like, you can't just look solely at the transgressions in his personal life because he's a professional.
Right.
There's another idealism, too, with leaders. It's like you expect them to be perfect. You know? But they're human. Like, bro, don't choose a human then. Let's just all vote for robots. They're perfect.
Right, yeah.
They'll just take the aggregate thing and then give us, like, what they believe would work harmoniously for our species. The only threat is they might just think they should kill us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's when you
That's
get world
the
peace.
fear, yeah.
Circling back, that's how you get world peace. They
right.
just slaughter all of us, and they're like, now Earth will become a factory for robots.
And we do their bidding.
No, they would just slaughter us, because then they would kill us because in case we wanted to revolt. You know what I'm saying? They know we're clever because we created them, so they need to get rid of us.
Right. Yeah, true.
It's almost like we're their gods, just like we had gods, but they had to kill us as their gods in order to survive, just like we had to kill our gods. But if you look at it, the way we killed our gods was the same way they killed Tinkerbell.
Right.
I don't believe in you anymore. Boom. Death of a fairy.
Right.
Think about that one. All right. So we're going to watch, what's that movie?
Ad Astra?
The Brad Pitt movie. Yeah, we're going to check out the Brad Pitt movie next week, and we're going to hopefully talk about that one.
Yeah.
Something lighter. So until next time, let go of your desire, and world peace will already be upon you. Might not be for the next dude, but you'll be chilling. So who cares?
Yeah, sure, I guess. I mean, or you can play more Call of Duty, I guess.
That's true, yeah. Divert your attention elsewhere.
Yeah.
Till next time. Take it easy.
Bye.
Peace.